So, it's been a while since Sonic Superstars came out, and as usual, my review for it is super duper fucking late.
Stupid bitch!
But let's do it anyways. So I guess the first thing I'll touch on is the story. And you know, classic Sonic games aren't really known for having these super complex stories, and Sonic Superstars is not that different. So Eggman's back on his evil shit again, except now we have the return of Knack. Or Fang, I guess. And it's pretty cool seeing him return because I think the last time we saw him was in Sonic Triple Trouble. And now that I think about it, this game's story is actually a little similar to that game's. Mostly because this game has 3 major villains, except one of them is not even really a villain. Yeah, this game introduces a brand new character, Trip, the whatever she is.
What is that?
But yeah, Trip is not even really a villain. She's pretty chill, actually. She just sort of found her way in the situation where she has to work for these 2 losers. But yeah, Sonic and his friends are here to put a stop to Eggman and Fang's evil shenanigans, and they're gonna use the power of friendship and the new Chaos Emerald powers to beat the shit out of the bad guys. And the new Chaos Emerald powers are actually a really big selling point of this game, but I can't really get into that without talking about the gameplay, so let's get into the gameplay. So this game is a classic Sonic game, so it follows, you know, the standard classic Sonic formula, and the controls are pretty nice, they're pretty responsive, and the physics are actually pretty good. Thankfully this game doesn't have those forces classic Sonic physics.
What the hell is even that?
And the levels in this game are pretty okay. Most of them have a pretty fun gimmick, and the set pieces in them are really fucking cool. And some of these levels are pretty memorable, like Speed Jungle with the grinding on vines, and Navi from Ocarina of Time making a cameo, and Golden Capital, which kind of reminds me of New Super Mario Bros. 2, with how there's just rings everywhere, and Cyber Station, which I think has the most unique look out of all of the levels in this game, with how everything looks really digital, and even the enemies and your character have this sort of pixelated look to them, and near the end of the level you even have this like cool little segment where you turn into a fucking rocket. Again. Yeah, overall, the levels in this game are pretty solid. And yeah, I guess I should point out the obvious. Superstars looks very different from most of the classic Sonic games we've had. Instead of the usual pixel art style, Superstars goes with this 2.5D look, and I can see why some people don't really like it. It does almost make the game's art direction feel a little more generic, especially with the way that some of the levels are visually designed. But personally, I don't really mind the art style change, and graphically, I think the game actually looks pretty good. And there's one other big part of this game that I have yet to mention, and that is the introduction of co-op, which I'm not going to talk about because I don't have friends. No, I'm just kidding. I mean the skipping part, not about the friends part. And surprisingly, the co-op in this game is actually super duper fucking fun. This is actually like the best way to experience the game in my opinion, because it genuinely works super duper well. Like this unironically functions better than New Super Mario Bros. Co-op, because when someone gets left behind, instead of being turned into a bubble to forever be bullied by your friends, you actually just get the option to teleport back to the other players. And yeah, a lot of the fun of New Super Mario Bros. Co-op is the chaotic nature of it, and just being able to bully your friends. But this at the very least makes this game's co-op feasible. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely moments where it just doesn't work. Usually because someone's going too fast, so it sort of just messes up the whole thing. But it works for the most part. Like, it is genuinely a super fun experience taking on these levels with your friends.
If I had one!
Although I do really wish that this game had online co-op, because it is just restricted to local. I mean, technically there is an online mode, it's just that no one cares about it. Oh, and speaking of friends, the Dreamcast is back in this game, and they all play pretty much exactly how they did in the past classic games. Tails with his overpowered flying ability that just lets him cheese pretty much entire levels. Knuckles with his climbing and gliding abilities. And Amy, whose moveset is pretty much exactly how it was in Sonic Origins, except now she has a double jump, which is pretty cool. And there is one more playable character, but we'll save her for when we get to that part. And of course this is a Sonic review, so I have to mention the music. But I'm gonna hit you with the cold water here. This game's soundtrack is pretty mid. Yeah, the tracks in this game really aren't all that great, at least for like Sonic music standards. Like, they're not bad per se, but they just don't hit that hard. Like, pretty much all of the tracks that T. Lopes worked on the soundtrack slap. They're pretty good. But Jun Sonoy, my guy, with all due respect, please stay away from the synths. Please. But yeah, this game's soundtrack isn't terrible. There are a few bangers here and there, and well, I'll just let them rip. There's also one last thing about this game's gameplay that I have yet to touch on, and that is this game's main gimmick, which are the Chaos Emeralds. And yeah, I know, the Chaos Emeralds are in pretty much every Sonic game, but they are a little bit different in this game. So as usual, you collect the Chaos Emeralds by beating the game's special stages, where you pretty much get sent to the Shadow Realm and everything becomes 3D, and you basically have to web swing your way to the Chaos Emeralds before you run out of rings. And each of the Chaos Emeralds give you a unique power. And admittedly, I am a little bit iffy on these things, because some of them do give you like really cool powers, like the clone one where you do pretty much Shadow Clone Jutsu, and the red one that lets you turn into a fucking bullet, and the yellow one that lets you slow down time. But other ones are pretty trash, like the green one that lets you just plant grass. Yeah.
You planted grass?
I mean, there's some scenarios where something like this could come in handy, but then there's other ones like the water power that is pretty much useless for most of the game because there's only like one water level. So yeah, I don't know, it's just, they're cool, but admittedly sometimes they do feel like more of an afterthought than anything. Although I will say that the last one is really cool because it gives you a power that's unique to each character. Like for Sonic, it lets him do the homing attack. For Tails, it lets him shoot out like little mini tornadoes. For Knuckles, it lets him like punch out shockwaves. And Amy turns into a Hammer Bro again. Oh, and of course, collecting all of them lets you go super. And as usual, it also lets you unlock the true ending. Well, almost. See, this is only one of the requirements to unlocking the game's true ending. The other requirement comes after you beat the main story, where this happens. Yeah, eventually Trip ends up switching sides and she takes off her little helmet, she does a little face reveal, and turns into a fucking dragon. Whoa! And just absolutely demolishes Fang. And once he's gone, it's just a matter of beating Eggman. And by the way, I haven't mentioned the boss fights in this game, but this final boss in particular. Most of the boss fights in this game are pretty okay. They are just run-of-the-mill average classic Sonic boss fights. They're really nothing special. But this final boss, oh my god. This thing literally took me like an hour to beat on stream. And I like to think of myself as being pretty good at Sonic games, but this shit kicked my ass. I don't know what it is about recent Sonic games, but man, Sonic Team saw what we were saying about forces being like too easy and stuff, and they came back with a fucking vengeance. But hey, it's just a skill issue, I guess. But yeah, once you finally do beat Eggman, that's the end of the main story. Yay. And then after the credits roll, you will see that you have unlocked Trip's story. Yippee! And Trip's story is basically just the game again, but now you play as Trip. Yeah, you pretty much just play through the same levels, except just slightly harder, I guess. So the only real difference here is that we're playing as Trip, and aside from just being absolutely adorable, Trip is actually pretty fun to use. Just like everyone else, she can spin dash, and her unique ability is that she can climb on walls, kind of like the Spike Wisp from Sonic Colors. Actually, yeah, that is pretty much exactly what she does. And her extra emerald power is that she shoots fireballs. Fire! And that's cool and all, but the really cool thing about her is that when she goes super, she transforms into this fucking dragon. Like a literal golden dragon that breathes fire. Oh my god! Yeah, Trip is pretty fucking awesome. So you'll pretty much play through the game again, and there are a few bosses that are unique to Trip's story. But instead of her final boss being Eggman, Trip goes up against Fang. And this boss fight is just as annoying as Eggman's. I'm not even gonna get into it, just fuck this guy.
You should kill your.
And once you beat Fang and you beat Trip's story, you will finally unlock the true final boss, who is this random dark dragon guy that kind of just comes out of nowhere. And I'm not sure if I just wasn't paying attention to the story, but this guy kind of just pops in. Hi, I'm actually cutting in here post-production because I actually completely forgot about these animations that they posted on the social media sites. And these add more context to what the evil dragon guy is doing in this game. And these look cool and all, but my question is, why aren't these in the fucking game? But whatever. So Sonic turns super and we get into the final boss of the game. Or the final boss of the game. And I'm not even gonna lie, I actually think this boss fight was pretty okay. It was 100% better than Sonic and Trip's final bosses. I can definitely say that for sure. Yeah, this one really wasn't too difficult once you find out what to do, especially during that meteor section. That part is probably the most challenging, but once you learn how to do that, this boss is pretty easy, and I actually kinda like it.
Oh god, my fucking knee!
So yeah, with the help of Trip, Sonic beats up the dark dragon guy, and that's pretty much it. Everything is good now, everyone's chilling, and that's pretty much the end of the game. Overall, I think Superstars is alright. Like at worst, I think the game is mid, because there's nothing really like wrong with it. Okay, aside from a few glitches that I got during my first playthrough,
I can't take this shit no more, man.
and the bosses being from mid to downright fucking diabolical.
Take this shit no more.
But I still really had fun with the game for the most part. Like, I'd say that the levels are pretty good. You know, the emerald powers are pretty hit or miss, but they were an interesting concept. And co-op in this game is absolutely a blast. It is amazing. And while the story isn't something on like the level of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the whole thing with Trip is pretty endearing. And this game introducing her alone is a massive W. And yeah, there's nothing outright bad that I could point out for this game. And I had a lot of fun playing it, so yeah, I think the game is pretty alright. Maybe even great on a good day. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and see you later.